All right, welcome to the On Your Side podcast. I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell.
You've got 3 kiddos in the house, right?
I do.
Okay. How are things going? Because you had a newborn recently, which is not really considered a newborn
She's
anymore.
not a newborn anymore.
No.
She's 9 months old now.
Oh my goodness!
Time flies when you're having fun.
Coming up on the big number 1.
I know.
Wow. How are things going? I mean, that's
good.
That's a household.
It's good. They're all wild and crazy, and bouncing off the walls all the time.
Yeah.
I had a parent-teacher conference for my 3-year-old yesterday, and it was all good. Glowing reviews.
Oh, wow.
We heard that she's a leader, but we also heard that she is stubborn, which we knew.
That might be a good thing, Who knows?
My husband, she got one note. This was actually kind of funny. So there was one thing where it was like, needs improvement. And it said, she doesn't know when to ask for assistance. And I had to laugh because I had a performance review here at work.
Yeah.
And that was a note that I got from our boss. She said, I never know if you are smooth sailing or like completely drowning in work. Like you just never ask for help. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. And so now my 3-year-old also doesn't know how to do that.
It's a gene, but maybe that's a good gene,
I guess.
Financial finances for 3 kids and a house, it gets, and we were talking earlier, I mean, your kids are in baseball. I mean, you've got the uniform,
all the stuff,
the hat, it does add up.
It sure does.
Gosh, I think I read the other day that to raise one kid through the age of 18 was like almost $300,000.
I think it's more than, lots of money.
Oh my goodness. So
and then they grow up.
Yes. And then they hopefully support you.
Well, gosh, that'd be great.
Have you thought about any kind of a cutoff point with your kids? Like once they reach 18 or if they go to college, I mean, are you even involved with that mentally yet?
My parents definitely supported me a lot longer than 18. So I will do the same probably for my kids. I think I was on my parents' cell phone plan till I was like 27.
Oh boy. Well, at least you had a cell phone.
Yeah.
When I was that age, the internet had not even come along yet. So, we're talking about adult kids and a quick example, when I was going through college, I was fortunate enough to have it paid for by mom and dad, but there was a caveat that went with this. 4 years. You have 4 years to get your bachelor's. A day over 4 years and you're on your own. Tuition, rooming, your car, everything. You have to finish in 4 years. I mean,
that's a good deal.
I mean, it is a good deal. And how much of an incentive is it to get done? Because
to buckle down and make it happen.
You don't want to get saddled right away. So anyway, but on that day, I don't want to say cut off, but from that day, once I got my bachelor's, I was on my own.
Started paying your own rent,
everything,
and groceries,
car insurance, everything. Yeah. This is also pre-cell phone, so I didn't have a cell phone bill.
Is this what you did to your kids too?
No.
Did you give them a cutoff day?
I did not. I gave them the choice of either military or college, but either one you're going to have to do. But yeah, every once in a while I do kind of help them out. Every once in a while.
I think that's what parents like doing.
My youngest,
you like doing that, right?
My youngest one always says, "Hey, I want to have a steak dinner tonight. Can you send me some money?" And I'm like, "I'll give you $50. I mean, if that keeps you
that's
off,
sweet.
If that keeps you off my back for the next 2 or 3 months,
I love that.
That's worth it. You've earned it." But listen, there's a big issue here with the bank of mom and dad. Apparently, they don't have any, hours where it's closed. The bank of mom and dad just continues to give to their adult kids.
Constantly open.
And it's constantly open. People have issues with this. So today we're talking to, you're going to have to help me out here, Beth. You're Beth Klongpayabal, right?
That was perfect. You did great.
Oh, thank goodness. I think I only have to do it once. But you're with savings.com, and we appreciate you being with the On Your Side podcast. You just had a report that said 50% of parents are financially supporting their adult children. That's a shocking number. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what your thoughts were?
Yeah, we started doing this research in 22, and we started off just trying to figure out if people were kind of giving to their children more than they were giving to themselves as far as retirement savings. That was the initial aim. And we had no idea that there were this many people still supporting adult children. And we're talking beyond college years. We're talking, into their 30s even, a lot of the time. So I think it was shocking to us too. So we started diving in deeper, and there's a lot to learn from these situations.
So what is the scope of helping out the adult children? Is it just the steak dinner once every few months like Gary is sending to his kid, or is this significantly more money than that?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a range, but we found the average that people were supporting their children was around, I think, $1,400 or $1,500 a month. That's of the people that supported an adult child.
Woo.
$1,500. There's no incentive to get a job.
I'm going to call my mom and dad right after this podcast and say, we've got a podcast coming out soon. Yeah. You should probably listen.
We want you to listen to it. So who do you point the finger to? Is it the moms and dads or the parents who want to see their kids live a lifestyle, or is it the kiddos, adult children, who want to live like mom and dad and but they can't afford it? I mean, who's behind all this?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's the parents. That's my estimation of it. And just like Susan was saying about, cell phones being obviously it's easier to keep your kids on your cell phone plan for a long time. You pay for their insurance until they're 26 because it's not that big of a deal. So that does count as financial support. But how many steak dinners is too many steak dinners, Gary?
Right, exactly. Well, and listen, you just opened my eyes on something, because both of my sons, they are still on our cell phone plan.
Yeah.
So I'm one of these people.
You are.
I'm one of the 50%.
You're a financial supporter.
An enabler.
No.
Maybe, I don't know. What else did you learn from this survey?
Yeah, to your point, I think that when your parents gave you that 4-year limit of, you finish school and then you're basically finished with the gravy train, that was a limitation. That was also an incentive. We want to support you. We want you to be successful. Go make a life for yourself. We want the best, but then there's an actual end date. And some of these parents just don't have that end date in mind. They don't put financial requirements on the kids. They don't make them contribute. They're paying for things like vacations and their investments in the future. It's just a lot beyond kind of what our parents did for us.
Vacations? Are you kidding me?
Not kidding. No.
I have to make a little bit of, I guess, a confession maybe.
Oh.
So when we go to my parents' house for the summer, my dad always sends money for the kids' flights. He's like, you can pay for your flight and your husband's flight, but I'll pay for the kids because I want to see my grandkids.
That's a little different. Listen, there is something about grandparents that is special, and I've been told that a million times, but that's not so bad. I mean, you're paying for your and your husband.
But it's still a boatload of money.
What about groceries and things like that? Moms and dads are paying for grocery bills?
Yeah, aren't we all struggling a little bit to eat? And I think that's kind of the bare minimum too, right? Like, you don't want your kids to starve. So the least you can do is throw some Pop-Tarts at them. It goes beyond Pop-Tarts because I think the average spending for groceries in the survey was $200. So I'm not sure what these kids are eating, but that seems like a good chunk of money, especially if they're living at home with you and they don't have those extra expenses.
So do
you have an indication of whether these adult kids that are getting, help with groceries are single and living alone, or if they have their own family and, they're struggling to make ends meet because everything just got way more expensive, and they're kind of struggling to keep their own family finances on track?
We didn't dive into the living arrangements of the children that were being supported beyond the fact that we did ask, do they still live in your home, or do they live apart from you? But we know that the parents really, they just want to see their kids thriving. So obviously they pay for education, they pay for things that are necessary, housing. Sometimes they help support the rent, because a lot of the times they just don't want to see their kids suffer the way that they did, or have to struggle as as much as they did. I talked to a mom yesterday, one of my friends, and she said, she had worked her whole life so that her kids didn't have to struggle like she did. So I think part of that is a prideful thing, this joy of being able to spare your children that suffering.
Well,
Such a good point.
That is a good point, but at some point, you're actually hurting your children, I believe, because let's just say you're falling short $500 a month, just as a round figure, but mom and dad are going to pay that. I just think that's a bad lesson. You need to either get a second job to help pay that $500 that you're short every month, or you need to get another job that pays higher. You can't ride the gravy train forever.
I agree with you, Gary. I think that, allowing them the opportunity to grow while they're under your care is one thing, but not having any requirements on them is really just kind of setting them up to fail in the long run.
So let's talk about maybe a couple quick strategies. Do you have any ideas on how we can set some of those requirements? Just quick, easy things to do. We want to help our kids. We don't want to see them fail. We don't want them to be in a place where they're not eating because this month's budget didn't work out. How do we go about setting those requirements to kind of maybe wean them off of the help?
Some of the parents in the study, they require them to either, be seeking employment or having a certain amount of gainful employment. And then others are requiring them to follow a budget. And a lot of our financial advisors that we referenced in our study, they were suggesting, putting limits on what is being offered in comparison to what the child is actually contributing. My kids, actually, I have kids that live in my home that are adults. And one of the things that we do is we require them to pay for their own cell phone, their own insurance, their own gas, and they have to be employed or in school. So even those small requirements make me feel like at least I'm setting them up to work to provide for themselves eventually outside of my support.
Okay, you've piqued my interest now. You've opened up the box into Beth's family. Now I have some questions. How many kids do you have and what are their ages?
I don't think you have time on your podcast for me to go into that. I have, let me think, we have 11 children. I'm a blended family.
Okay.
I have 6 biological kids and 5 stepkids.
Okay.
But 7 of those are adults. They're 18 and over.
Okay.
And then we have 4 that are under.
So my question is, you said they live with you, or at least some of them do, or was it all of them?
No, some of them.
Some of them. And tell me, why do you feel that, how is that helping them out by having them live with you? Because I think it indicated that you think it's going to kind of help them down the road. But, it's the old saying, failure to launch. I mean, why do I need to leave mom and dad's house when I got it so good right here? I got this big backyard pool and, utility bills are paid for. Tell me about that.
Wait. Before we get into that, Before we get to her answer, your son came home and lived with you for a while.
Oh, from the military?
Uh-huh.
Well, of course, yes. But listen, he's gone already. He was in the house 2 months, and that was it. I had an end date on that as well.
He didn't even help vacuum the floor.
He did not.
You did not have requirements for him.
Do you want to know how many times he came home and I had to take the kitchen garbage out every single day because he was constantly eating. I mean, he ate like a Chicago Bears linebacker. But anyway, are you going to ever, pull the plug on the kiddos inside your house, Beth?
I think that's an ongoing conversation, honestly. It depends on the child. I also have an adult child who went to the military directly out of high school, and he was very successful. He has never come back home. He's got a family, of his own. So I'm very proud of him, and he did great. And then I have another that, had different struggles, had a different life, and they have different skill issues that we're working through developing. And so, eventually they will be prepared to leave, and it's just not today. So I think it's a case by case basis, honestly.
It's sink or swim, or as I told my wife, it's kind of like you're a bird in a nest. And what does Mama Bird do? She pushes the bird out of the nest, you either fly or you're falling to the ground. So I
Mhm.
think that, I mean, if nature is doing that, I think that says a lot, and maybe humans should probably look at that as well.
I think you just didn't like your grocery bill. So
And-
how does the help from parents actually impact what parents are able to save for their own future, their own retirement? Is there a detriment to some of our own goals?
Unfortunately, you are absolutely correct. There's a detriment. The people in our study, they are giving their kids more than twice what they're actually putting into their own retirement savings, which, they might be considering their children their retirement plan, but are their children on board with that? Are they ready to take on mom and dad when when the time comes for them to be finished in the workforce? I don't know that's a conversation for individual families, but the reality is that they are not saving for retirement that in a way that matches the way that they are caring for their children financially.
I mean, if
So
the average is
fascinating.
$1,500 that they're giving at least one kid, I mean, $1,500 a month going into your IRA or whatever, I mean, it adds up quickly. I think we can go on and on,
We
and
could.
I think you probably know where I stand on this.
I do, but
Yeah.
but there are, like she was saying, there are so many nuances to every single personal situation.
Correct.
So you can understand kind of where some of these numbers are coming from. And like, if your kid showed up at your door, you're never going to turn them away. I know you. You come across as this tough guy, Gary Harper chasing down the bad guys. But if he showed up at your door and said, I need help, every single time.
Okay, well, I'm a dad, so I mean, of course
course
I
you
would.
are.
But now we're going into a different direction. I'm not providing financially every single month after month. But
For
yeah,
sure, yeah.
If somebody was down, if one of my
that's
boys
why-
was down and out, yeah, sure.
But that's why every single
Yeah.
situation is kind of nuanced.
Yeah,
and-
that's true. All right, Beth, if people want to find out more about you or savings.com, where can they go find out all this information?
That sounds great. Thank you so much for having me. You can come to savings.com and read all of our research, savings.com/insights.
All right. Well, we appreciate you joining us from Texas, and have a great day. Thanks again.
Thank you.
The On Your Side podcast is produced by Brad Denny. Our audio engineer and editor is Todd Martin. Segment producer is Colin Stanton. And I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell. If you have a problem you can't resolve, maybe we can, send us a message through azfamily.com or our AZ Family mobile app. Look for the On Your Side section and leave us a message. Thanks so much for listening to the On Your Side podcast. And if you like it, leave us a review. We'll see you next week.
On Your Side is on Good Morning Arizona every weekday morning at 6:45 and 7 o'clock, and every weekday evening on Good Evening Arizona at 4 and 5 o'clock. You can also catch it on Arizona's Family News at 9 on 3TV every weeknight.